You mean I can't talk for 2 years? Hello and welcome. Welcome to Input English. In this episode, I need to respond to a question and comment in the comments section. One of the essential things about this channel is the community that we serve. The comments section turns out to be a super valuable resource. And I got a question and comment the other day that generated this episode. Basically, the comment we can distill down to, you mean I can't talk for 2 years? So the answer is no, you don't have to wait 2 years. Hope you enjoyed this video. No, that's a joke. So let's approach this very logically. As advice is given to language learners, sometimes it fails to take into consideration the context that learning is occurring, the needs of the individual, and where that person is in their language learning journey. So it's easy for people to listen to some of the advice that comes out on this channel or other channels and misunderstand that it is very prescriptive and very rigid, and life doesn't support that. Life needs to have a lot of flexibility. Our circumstances are very different, and so the advice for one person is not going to work for another person. And I get that. So let's do some analysis today, not about how to start speaking, but strategies on when to start speaking. Let's celebrate the fact that everybody's different and their circumstances are very different. Okay, so I'm going to start with my situation learning Spanish, living in the United States, learning to speak Spanish. My situation was I wanted to speak Spanish, but I didn't have a need to speak it immediately. I had no travel plans to go to a Spanish-speaking country. I had no requirements at work that I needed to be able to be fluent in Spanish. There was no sense of urgency. And so I had the luxury of optimizing my learning under those circumstances. I was also starting from basically zero. I knew nothing because I had studied German in school, not Spanish. So under those circumstances, which might be similar to where you are, there is an advantage to listening to a great deal of content and get those phonemes, the sounds of the English language, into your brain before you start talking. Humans are very clever. And if you have to say a word and you don't know the phonemes, you don't know the sounds of the target language, then what you're going to do in order to survive, in order to function, you're going to use the sounds that are already in your head, and those sounds are from your native language. And this is how we get foreign accents. We pronounce the words in the target language using phonemes from our mother tongue. Now, if that's not a problem for you, great. But I wanted my pronunciation to be more similar to native pronunciation. I'm not trying to fool anybody that I'm other than an American who learned Spanish as a second language, but I wanted my pronunciation to be very good so that I could speak and people would understand me. There's an advantage of that. So that first scenario I described is the person who's studying a language, in your case, English, no time pressure, no travel plans immediately, and no economic pressure that you need to have it now. Okay, let's take another scenario. Let's say you're trying to learn English, but you're already living in an English-speaking country and you're shopping in stores and dealing with people every day. So that gives you pressure to speak. There's a necessity to speak. And under those circumstances, for sure, you should speak. Now, there are strategies. As you are developing a new language, even if you're living in country, you can let the other people do a lot of the talking. In other words, you can ask simple questions or give simple answers and not worry about constructing complex sentences and lengthy explanations. You can answer in very short answers, or you can ask very simple questions. That will get the job done, and it'll take pressure off of you. I very much did that when I was living in Austria. As I was developing my language skills, when I talked to a native speaker, my questions or answers were usually fairly short and not elaborate, not fancy. The reason to adopt this approach is to take pressure off of you. The nice thing about talking to a native speaker if you're in country is that will get you more input, because if you ask them a question, you're about to get an answer, and that's input. If you answer their question, they're probably going to keep talking to you, or they may keep talking to you, and that's more input. So for me, if I'm in country and I'm speaking their language, I want to use enough of it to get them to respond to me, giving me more input, because the more I hear, the more I learn. Okay, let's take another scenario. Let's say you're learning English because you're going to travel to an English-speaking country. You're going to Australia, you're going to England, you're going to Canada or the United States. You need to speak English because you're going to be there in a few months. So comprehensible input, as is constructed on this channel, is not traveler's English. That isn't the purpose of this. I'm trying to give you content so that you can develop over time a good enough mental image of English that you will be able to better understand native content. You'll be able to watch television series. You'll be able to listen to podcasts. You'll be able to watch movies. You'll be able to function in the English language in a way to get more content. I'm trying to build a bridge here between wherever you are and fluency through native content. If you are planning to come to an English-speaking country, and I've just told you this is not traveler's English, what do? Well, you go online and find some traveler's English. And then the last scenario I would like to address is the language learner who has been studying English for a long time and has attained a relatively high level, but still wants to bring that level up higher, wants to become more fluent, wants to be able to understand better, wants to be able to speak more clearly. So this is not a beginner. In this last scenario of an experienced language learner that has attained maybe a B2 level, B1, B2 level, has perhaps 1,000 hours of input already, there's no need to put off speaking because you have already arrived at that level. So for the person who already can speak English, who can understand me easily, who can watch television series, who can watch movies, and they're functioning quite well, they just want more, then the answer is lots more content, lots more input. So for that person, there's absolutely no benefit to putting off speaking. No. This was actually the circumstance of the person who wrote me the comment. They went on to explain that they have been studying English for a number of years and that it would not be convenient for them to put off speaking, and indeed, it makes no sense. If you've been studying English for quite some time and you've attained a very functional level of competency with the language, then this silent period that we've talked about makes no sense. Go ahead and speak as much as you want. Have a lovely time using this language. You've earned it. So I hope that this brief discussion has clarified that point. I don't want to propose a one-size-fits-all, because a one-size-fits-all never fits anyone. But as we look at the details of where we are in our language learning journey, we can start to navigate with some insight what would help us. If you have any questions about this or any concerns, comments, put them in the comments section. I will respond. Hope you enjoyed this discussion. I invite you to join us in future videos. See you soon.